Before I dive into my speech, I want to share an epic story with you. And this epic story is found in Boy's Life. And if you've ever had a scout in your life, you probably know what this is. And this one's an old one. This is dated back from August of 1998. And I'm going to read a story straight out of it. It's called A True Story of Scouts in Action. Boulders Fell on the Rafters. On July 30th, 1996, 30 scouts and parents from Burley, Idaho's Troop 23 rafting the Salmon River were caught in a microburst, a super strong wind. In one raft, Ron Hall and his sons Randy, 16, and Curtis, 15, and Ray Anderson and his 14-year-old son John headed for shore where Randy and Curtis secured the boat. A boulder fell off a rock bench above them, breaking in two. One piece knocked Mr. Anderson into the water and shattered his leg. John grabbed his dad and helped him back into the raft. The second piece hit Mr. Hall in the head, plunging him face down into the water. Randy and Curtis, his arm cut by the falling rock, jumped in and pulled out their father. Mr. Hall was bleeding badly and drifting in and out of consciousness. Randy bandaged his father's head and Curtis's arm. John and others splintered Mr. Anderson's broken leg. They flagged down a jet boat driver who took them to a boat ramp where a helicopter evacuated the wounded. Now, I told you that this story was epic. And you might be thinking, this story is interesting. I don't know if it's epic. It has basic information in it, but am I going to remember it? I bet this magazine has been thrown out by pretty much anybody who ever owned it. So why do I have this very old magazine? I saved this magazine because this story has meaning to me. This story is about my father and about my brother. Now, we all don't get to have our story published in a magazine, so we have to write them ourselves. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is writing. There are so many reasons to write, and I'm going to go over a few of them with you. One reason we should write is for posterity. President Kimball said, "Those who keep a book of remembrance are more likely to remember the Lord in their daily lives." Journaling is a way of counting our blessings and of leaving an inventory of these blessings for our posterity. My father wrote about this event, and I want to share some things that were left out of this article that make it the epic story that I told you it was. Now, as my father was in the water, knocked down from the rock, he saw not just huge trees pass him in the water, but he saw trees that still had the roots attached to them. And as my father floated in the water, he knew that his leg was broken, not because of the pain that he was in, but because he saw his heel turned up and floating in the water. Something else that was left out of this story is that in between the time that the boys bandaged up their fathers and the time that the jet boat arrived, a very powerful priesthood blessing was administered to those men. Through my father's story, I have a story for my posterity, and it's one that's going to be remembered. Another reason we should write is to stir up emotions. David McCullough, who's an American Pulitzer Prize winner and National Book recipient, said, "Facts alone are never enough. Facts rarely, if ever, have any soul. In writing or trying to understand history, one may have all manner of data and miss the point. One may have all the facts and miss the truth. It can be like the old piano teacher's lament to her student. I hear all the notes, but I hear no music." So think, are you stirring up emotion in your reader? If you're not, it's probably because you didn't stir up emotion in yourself when you were writing. I didn't realize how much emotion I had about certain things until I took a writing class and I started to write about things. I wrote about a complicated pregnancy I had. I wrote about my first marathon. I even wrote about my son's hearing aids. And as I wrote those things down, I realized I had deep emotion connected to all of those things. Flannery O'Connor, who's an American writer, said, "I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say." So when you write down your story, you find yourself in the midst of a new story, and that story has deep emotion to it. And now we're not just writing for posterity, we're writing for ourselves. We write down those emotions and we find out who we are, and we can start to change because we wrote down those things. So write for posterity and write to stir up emotions. Statistically, it's proven that those who write have so many good benefits. They communicate better, they eliminate stress, they're more productive, they're happier. So statistically, we should just write. Another reason we should write is not just to stir up emotion, but to release emotions. If you've ever had strong feelings about something, I encourage you to write about them. Even when you're having strong emotions, sit down and write about them then. I had strong emotions about Mother's Day. When we were a young family just starting out, my husband would often suggest going to my mother-in-law's house. And I love my mother-in-law. I just didn't want to go there every year for Mother's Day. And I was angry about this situation, and it hadn't even happened yet. And so I started to write it down. And the purpose of me writing it down is because I wanted to deliver this sort of speech to my husband where I expressed to him my anger and frustration about his idea about going to his mother's house. But what happened instead is that when the topic came up, I was able to talk to my husband in a kind way and deliver exactly what I wanted to say without being angry. And that's because I had already released my emotions down on that paper. So when we have strong emotions about something, release them, let them out through writing. If you don't know where to start with writing, register yourself online on a writing workshop. There's so many to choose from. Look one up. Google things to write about. Pick a topic. You can even go to Barnes & Noble or Target and look under their journal section. People have started books where there's topics and things for you to just fill in the blank. And you can just ease your way into writing by doing that. And you can start to see what you think of things. Remember 3 things as you're writing. Remember your posterity. Remember to stir up emotion in yourself and others. And remember to release emotions. You might be surprised at the impact that has on you. You might be surprised that who you influence is not just others, but yourself.